Good morning everybody, this is Archana here. Today I wanted to speak to you about the challenges of penning an historical short fiction series. I have spent the major part of the last 1 year working on my recent book, The History of Mathematics. This book is a collection of 26 short fiction stories which deal about how mathematics evolved right from the beginning of civilization. Unlike usually other historical novels which deal with a single time period or a single set of characters, a single civilization, in these stories I had to deal with different time periods, different civilizations, and especially this was very challenging because this was in a topic as wide as the history of mathematics. So now I made a lot of mistakes on this, and I wanted to show you, how you can possibly avoid making such mistakes. And yes, and also, when I read about this topic and when I made these mistakes in my research, I realized that how can we do research in a much better manner. So I wanted to talk about research for writers today. Without further ado, let me go on to the topic. The first thing that you need to remember, let me condense this into 4 points. 4 practical tips for you to research better for your books. First thing is you can't remember it all. What happened for me was that when I first started researching on this topic, I was blown away. I was in awe of all that I was learning about and all the new topics that came about. So I just kept reading and reading and reading without actually jotting down what I was reading. So what happened is when I was writing the story and I came across a particular point, I realized that, oh God, I don't know where did I read about this. Oh, from what is the source for this? Who said this? From which book did I pick it up? Was this 100 CE or was this 200 CE? This is bringing me to my second point. Make notes. When you read about a topic, please make detailed notes which also mention the time period, the source, who said this, quotations, and all such details. Even maybe you can also take some screenshots of the pictures and other things that you see in the book, so that when you write your story, you don't need to keep referring back and going back into things. For instance, another thing I wanted to tell you about is, for instance, let's take this book, which is Cracking Mathematics by Colin Beveridge. Now what happens in this book is that it deals with various time periods, various characters, various mathematicians. Now if I was going to make notes on this book as I read them, and then if I try to refer back to this, it's going to be a nightmare. So what I actually did was I broke up my notebook into different parts. So I had these few pages reserved for Aryabhata, few pages reserved for Bhaskara, few pages reserved for Pythagoras, few pages reserved for Archimedes. So when I read a book and I find anything about Aryabhata in it, that went right into the portion where I was creating notes for Aryabhata. Similar was with my other online also. I had a separate document for Aryabhata, separate document for Bhaskara. So again, I did the same thing over there. This way, when you are writing a story on that particular topic, it becomes very easy to do it. I did it the wrong way. The first time I did not make these kind of notes and I did not pay attention to mentioning the source. So I had to do it all again. And here, when I mention do it all again, it's actually reading 7 to 8 books which were around 500 to 1000 words each again. So please be careful with this. Remember that you can't remember it all, so take adequate notes. And also, this brings me to the next part of it. Use technology. When it comes to notes, I found 2 things which were very useful. So 2 tools which were very useful for me. One was Scribner. If you don't know what is Scribner, Scribner is this wonderful writing tool which is being developed by Literature and Latin. And what happens with this tool is that you can actually create folders in this tool, create a project, create folders, and you can have all your research also in the tool and also your draft. So what happened for me was all my research, most of my research at least, what was not in my other tool, that is Evernote, whatever was not on Evernote was on Scribner usually, and apart from that, all my second draft was also over here. So for each story had a separate document, and I could make my notes, research on side by side if I needed to do that. So why do I mention second draft? Because my first draft is always written by hand. So my second draft has now started becoming Scribner. Now, the other technology that I found extremely useful for research was Evernote. I have Evernote on my mobile, I have it on my laptop, and I also have it on my iPad. So what happens is, whenever I'm out and I find something which is remotely useful probably for my book, I click a picture of it. Usually I used to click a picture of it, and then that used to go into my Google Drive and sink under the deluge of photos over there. Now I don't do that. Now after I click a picture of it, I make a copy and put it in Evernote in the folder. So for this project, I had a folder called the History of Mathematics, and my photographs and documents and whatever other things that I found relating to this topic went over there in Evernote. And also, I'm browsing something on my iPad and I take a screenshot, that goes into the Evernote on my iPad. Let's say I'm typing up some notes from maybe encyclopedia or maybe something else onto my laptop, that also goes into Evernote. So whenever I access Evernote on any one of these gadgets, I have all my research ready for me. This proved to be such a blessing. But believe me, I didn't do any of this initially. So it was all done on a basis of trial and error. So maybe for some of you, you may already be doing this and you must be thinking about, what is she talking about? Why is she speaking about all this redundant stuff? But these were mistakes that I did, and I didn't want you to do it. So the next thing, and the last point that I wanted to bring about is, whenever we speak about research, we always think about books. How many books did you read? Did you read this? Did you read that on the topic? But research actually means much more than that. Research also has to be, maybe visiting museums, as what happened in my case, or maybe speaking to people, interviewing people, going to places, and all these other things which according to what is needed for your book, So for this book, I had done a lot of research, read books and all that, but then there were some parts of it where I was really stuck. For example, the portions relating to Indian mathematics. What happens is, our Indian mathematicians of those yesteryears had this feeling that they had to spread knowledge, but they didn't want to gain any name or fame for it. They were very humble and unlike probably what we all are now, but and they did not like to be in the public light and all that. So for instance, about Aryabhatta, when you think about Aryabhatta, we know only one thing about Aryabhatta. We know that he wrote the book Aryabhatta when he was 23 years of age. Apart from this, we have no idea about who Aryabhatta was. When was he, where was he born? What did he do? Did he get married? Did he have children? No idea at all. And I still have no idea about it at all. So in these kind of situations, it becomes challenging. What do I write about Aryabhatta? What do I write? I can't write about a mathematical thesis over there, on what is mentioned in Aryabhatta, which is not what you are looking at when you pick up my book. You want to know something, something about Aryabhatta, which is why, I have done justice, I think, to that story too. But these are the kind of little things which were, very difficult to do. So one thing that helped me was, when I was absolutely stuck with this situation, I had this beautiful opportunity of visiting the Mumbai Museum. It's called as the Prince Wales Museum, or the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Vastu Sangrahalaya, which is in Fort Mumbai. And what happens is, India and the World, a History in 9 Stories is one of the exhibits there. As soon as I saw over there, I went there and I looked at it, and I literally came running back and wrote the story.
Hi everybody, I'm sorry once again. What happened was my camera ran out of charge, and now I'm completing the video using my phone camera. I hope the clarity and everything else is very good. So fine, let's just continue with what I was telling. So I was telling you about my episode with in Mumbai Museum, and how Mumbai Museum's exhibits gave me the idea to write the 2 stories which appear in the collection about the Harappan civilization. So similarly, I also had been to London, and they had a exhibition there which was about illuminating India, 5,000 years of science and innovation. This again proved to be so valuable. I got a lot of information over there, and another important thing was I had a chance to see the Bakshali manuscript over there. The Bakshali manuscript is the oldest document in the world which has 0 written in it, and it was found in undivided India. That is, it was found in this place called Bakshali, which is right now in Pakistan, but that time it was undivided India. And since we were being ruled by the Britishers at that time, it now appears in the London Museum. So all these things add value to the research. When you see a place, when you actually see an exhibit, see the kind of tools which they used for measuring at that point of time, I think this is how we can fill the well and write better stories. So research plays an important part, especially when it comes to historical fiction. To summarize the 4 points that I spoke to you about, you cannot remember it all. So please take notes, use technology. Especially when it comes to researching for fiction, technology can play a huge important role in making things easier for you. And the 4th point is, make sure your research is multifaceted. Don't just stick to books. You can also visit places, speak to professors, go to museums, and do other things to make your research wholesome and interesting. And I hope these points, which are about the mistakes that I made when I wrote my history of mathematics, help you to write better. And all the best. Thank you. Start. One last thing before I go. So this is my book, The History of Mathematics, and if you are interested in picking up a copy from the book, I'll leave a link below, the Amazon link below. And in case you do pick it up and read it, please let me know how you find the book. Thank you so much. Bye.